Shanti, and welcome again, and a special welcome to Sona, who's here, who's come from Abu Dhabi, and I think she's a friend and a colleague, and we've been together for about the last 20-25 years when we've been studying and on this spiritual journey. And one of the special things about Sona is that she's done a lot of study and experience in communication. That's what I'm thinking, because she trained as a linguist and a translator, interpreter in different languages, and I think you need to be in tune with others when you are talking or translating their language, and especially about spiritual matters. It's quite sensitive. So I think you've got some special topic tonight, Clairvoyant Heart. And so let's see what Sona has to say about that. But that's what she brings, a sensitivity and a listening that I think will make this topic very interesting. Thank you, Sona.
Here. Well, it does show a little red dot here. Yeah. Sure. Is that better? Am I on? Great, wonderful, thank you. Thanks for that lovely introduction, Jackie, and thank you all for attending today. It's wonderful to be back in Oz for a number of reasons. Firstly, because I haven't been here for almost 7 years, and it's always good to go back, isn't it, and revisit places where you were when you were a bit younger, and all sorts of memories come back. Another reason I'm really happy to be here is because the weather is a bit cooler than Abu Dhabi. We're in the middle of summer in the Middle East, which means it's over 40 degrees every day. And we're lucky if it gets down to 30 at night. So this is a very refreshing, beautiful place to just, cool down, cool off. And thirdly, I'm really glad to reconnect with some beautiful old friends. Those who live here, those who come and help out here, and many of my old friends in Melbourne as well. So if I can't stop smiling, you know why. And I'm sorry to disappoint you, but I don't have a crystal ball or anything with me. The topic is one of those ones where when you hear about clairvoyance and clairvoyancy, people sort of expect crystal balls, don't they? Or something a little bit, interesting. Okay. Okay, is that better now? Right in the middle, yeah? That will come later. If the talk doesn't work. Thanks, Tim. We expect all sorts of strange things when we talk about clairvoyancy, but I guess today's topic for me is very much about spiritual clairvoyancy. It's nothing to do with anything physical. And the word clairvoyant, actually, if you just look it up and do a little bit of research on the internet, comes from the word to be able to see clearly, to be able to observe, with accuracy. So when we put that together with clairvoyant heart, we often think it's the eyes that see, don't we? But when we communicate with people, I think it's the heart that feels. And it's that ability to perceive and to actually respond appropriately That to me would be clairvoyancy of the heart. And then again, we're not talking about the physical heart. It's not this heart that's pumping and beating. It's the heart of the soul, of the spirit. And it's that which connects with the heart of another spirit. And the reason I kind of thought of this topic was because I sometimes ask myself in today's busy modern world how much we really even bother to connect. I live in a country where I guess it's similar to Australia, but a little bit different again. We have lots of high walls between houses, and they're very symbolic of how people connect. And for many cultural reasons, people don't even look at each other in the eyes in Abu Dhabi. And so there's such a deep disconnect between communities, between individuals, It's almost like we've fallen in love with bits of plastic and metal that we walk around with all day, this business. And we've totally fallen out of love with humanity. And the heart has kind of developed lots of blockages, and some people's hearts are broken, hearts are bruised, Some people's hearts just have failure. I don't know if you can relate to any of those, but... So the pain in the heart, sort of stops us from being able to heal ourselves, but also to be able to connect with others. And humanity seems to be just on this downward trend of heartburn, heartbreak. So clairvoyancy of the heart is very much, for me, linked to being able to create good feelings in my heart, no matter what. Today, I think the heart of the soul is very much affected and influenced by things that go on outside. And then we kind of get to a place where we say, well, what can I do? They influenced me, or so-and-so said that, and I felt really awful. And my feelings get so deeply affected. My feelings actually start to completely be controlled by the world outside me. Anyone like that here, or partly like that? Yeah. You could start your day really well, and then someone just crosses your path and says the wrong thing at the right time, and it just goes straight like a dagger into your heart, and that's it. The rest of the day is gone. So we're all a little bit, I think, affected and bruised and burnt out. So with clairvoyancy of the heart, I was asking myself, what is it that creates a clairvoyant heart? What is it, this business of sight and perception, that we're looking for? And a few things came to mind. One of them was that to be able to see physically, I need eyes. But to be able to see from the spirit, to be able to perceive, I actually need to know that intrinsically everyone I'm relating to was born good. If I see a person as a good person, then my feelings towards them are good. If I feel someone's not nice, no matter what they do, I've kind of blocked that relationship. And no matter what they do, they will always remain in my negative box. How we all have boxes inside? And I guess in clairvoyancy, in being able to see, the first thing is to only see goodness. And that helps me to actually start the relationship on the right note. But then the big question comes up, how do I see goodness in people when no one's good? No one behaves properly, and no one really knows how to, morally, spiritually uphold principles in today's world. And that's where spirituality has helped me a great deal. Spirituality has really helped me to understand that what I see in the world today is not necessarily the way things were when they began. I'm sure all of you have seen a beautiful baby that just giggles and smiles, and and we all started off like that, didn't we? We don't remember it. But ask your mums and dads, someone in the family, somebody around you will be able to remind you of what you were like 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, however many years ago. And then as the soul journeyed on, that's when the clarity started to decrease. And as life threw many experiences at me, I guess, the initial response was to keep reacting and, trying to manage myself. And as my energy started to get depleted, the reactions start to get more and more spiritually violent, meaning more defensive. And I guess many of us have got to the point where you really do feel that you're running on very little energy. Anyone feel like that? Especially some days. There's just very little there. It's a bit like the mobile phone, when you get to the red mark. And you just know that it's about to go. And in the same way, when we get to that point of 5%, 10% reserve, then the first thing that happens is that I start to really contain my energy for myself, and I have nothing to give. And if no one can give in a relationship, the relationship ends up extremely dry, because nothing's coming forward. There is no love left. And the expectation and the need and the want that somebody else should fill me actually ends up blocking me even more. Because an empty battery cannot charge an empty battery. And so within this whole context of spiritual clairvoyancy, I guess the first thing that has helped me is the understanding that nobody means wrong. No matter how it appears to be, people are just acting from their own defenses. They're doing the best they can. And one of the spiritual commentaries that I heard very early on in my, in my life, I mean, I'm not that old, but when I started meditating about 25 years ago, was all about, I've done the best I can do. And when I was younger, Mum used to say, when I came back from my exams, how'd it go? And I'd go, oh, not so good. And she said, did you try your best? And if I said yes, she said, well, you can't do better than your best. And sometimes that's what I think about in today's world. People are trying to cope to their best ability. And so to maintain that feeling of goodwill and goodness and hope and positivity is really the only way to keep my eyes open and to see clearly. And as I said, it's not the physical eyes, it's the eye inside. It's the eye of the soul which sees. It's the eye of the soul that perceives another. The second thing I really need to be able to see clearly, and the reason why perhaps our hearts don't connect these days, is because there is so much movement going on in here. There is so much noise in here. It's a bit like someone's thrown dust in your eyes, and you just keep rubbing your eyes because you can't see anything. And in relationships too, the art of listening, the art of feeling. In India, there is a type of medicine, I don't know much about it, but I have heard, where people can actually feel your pulse, and they can tell you what's wrong with you. Has anyone heard about that? You just feel your actual physical pulse. And doctors who are really good at it can tell you what part of your body is diseased and to what extent and what you need to do. And so spiritually, to be able to kind of feel the pulse of another soul, of another human being. So, for example, if someone's angry, often it's not anger, there's just deep emotional pain that's coming out as anger, And so to be able to feel what's going on, to see what's happening behind the scenes, is very deeply connected with how still I can be inside. Because to be able to feel the vibes of another, I need to have a fairly clear and clean slate inside, Once I went to a lady who some of you might know. Her name is Daddy Janki. Have you heard of her? She's quite an elderly lady. She'd be one of my greatest mentors, and I went in front of her and I had all these questions and stuff was going on, and I wanted to ask her so many things. So I sat down in front of her and she just looked at me a few minutes with a lot of love. And she hadn't asked me anything, so I just kept quiet. And she refused to say anything too, till I'd calmed down and really settled into a bit of peace and silence, and that boiling pot inside had started to cool off a bit. And then she just answered and said exactly what I needed to hear, as though she had heard my inner heart speaking. And many months later I went back to her and I said, how did you know what to say? How did you know what was going on inside me? And very clear inside. And my inner eye can actually feel what's going on. I don't need to know the details, but often I can just pick up your vibes, your vibrations. And she says, in doing that, I just connect my mind with my own inner wisdom and with the wisdom of the divine and God, and whatever comes out of my mouth is usually appropriate. And then I kind of thought, it's so true, isn't it, how with certain people in our lives, we feel their vibes quite well. Maybe somebody you live with, or somebody you work with, or your children. You can kind of pick up their emotions, can't you? Yeah? No? Yeah? It's quite easy to feel what's going on inside them, because you've worked them out, you've sussed them out. And even if they lie to you and say, oh, I'm fine, everything's okay, and you go, no, it's not. I know something's wrong. There's like a sixth sense that's operating. And so in spiritual clairvoyancy, imagine if we could do that with each other. Not to know what the problem is, but with the intent that I can respond appropriately. Because appropriate response uplifts human beings. Appropriate response uplifts the soul. Appropriate response gives back hope to the soul. It allows them to love themselves when they've lost that hope within. When you're going through a really difficult patch and that one person comes along and just says, look, you'll be fine. You're an amazing person. You may have lost all your dignity and made lots of mistakes, but they just say, don't worry. I trust you, I have hope in you, I have faith in you. And what does that do for us? It's total upliftment. And I guess in humanity today, because we don't have that inner strength and that inner power left, neither are we able to connect, to hold that goodness in our hearts for people, nor are we able to pick up what it is that they need. So the end result ends up being, one person speaking French and the other person speaking Japanese, and there is no communication, there's miscommunication, and relationships are just breaking down. And one of the signs when we become weak, one of the ways that you've become weak, is when you start to blame people. Is that true? Do you know the blame game? Anyone know the blame game? You know the blame game? We all play it, don't we, sometimes? It's just not being able to be responsible. Because it's impossible to be responsible when you don't have the tools to carry out a task. If I don't have inner strength, how can I be responsible for me? And so I just end up, pushing out the blame on others. But in spiritual clairvoyancy and, and having this clairvoyant heart, I've kind of healed myself to a point. I've looked at my own heart and I've been able to heal, I've been able to manage my emotions, I've been able to move on to the point where my own heart is so full of goodness, so full of love, that all I do in every relationship is to be able to give. And the understanding that there is goodness at the core of everyone's heart allows me to look past their behavior today and to look deeper. Because clairvoyancy is not about seeing the surface, is it? You know, a clairvoyant can tell you all sorts of things that you didn't know, the kind of secrets that people want to know about. And without knowing spiritual secrets, we know one big secret, that every human being was born to love, and every human being deserves love. True? Yeah. And it's the lack of love that's actually making us, you know, behave out of place. So this whole ability to be able to heal my own heart and to keep it in a space where it's very, very gentle, very loving, yet very strong. And it also contains the ability to respond appropriately. So clairvoyancy involves the seeing, the sight, you know, within the soul, and also the heart within the soul. Sometimes we call the ability to see into another person, we call it the power of the intellect, the third eye. Have you heard of the third eye? You know, it's nothing fancy. It's actually just the inner ability to know, to understand, and to go beyond that which is apparent, but to go deep and connect with the original, eternal purity within every human being. You know the saying, you know, to bring out the best in someone? It's real art, isn't it? You know, there are people who I know who bring out the best in me. And it's not because they have a lot or they give me a lot. But what would you say it is that brings out the best in you? When someone looks at you, it's their vision on you. It's a vision filled with understanding, with love, with faith. Yeah. A vision filled with hope, trust. And it's a vision that never gives up. And so when I can see someone with that vision, when I can deal with people who are very different to me, because we do come across people, don't we, who are so different to us, you know, morally, spiritually. The world is made up of a variety of different cultures, communities, individuals, sometimes within your own family, you know. But I think deep spiritual clairvoyancy also involves acceptance. That we're all on our own journey, we're all on our own path. And in clairvoyancy, I've often, when you have hope in someone, you know, I've often thought that you can actually see them going through a phase, and you can also see them coming out of that phase. You know, I think probably that's the quality of many mums. When you have teenagers and they go through a phase, you may have been through that, and you just know it's a passing phase. It's a cloud. It'll come, it'll rain, it will go. I certainly know my mother thought that of me when I was growing up, and she was waiting for the day that I'd grow out of certain behavioral patterns, you know. And it's the same with us, you know. Sometimes, you know, people are going through a bad patch, but your positive vision on them, it's a bit like the sun behind the clouds that just keeps shining, knowing that in time and with consistent goodness, you know, consistent giving of hope, that person will come out of what they're in. So spiritual clairvoyancy is not anything, you know, that you have to learn, really. It's just applying the principle of seeing goodness coupled with a heart that is filled with hope, love, peace, purity for others. But that special ingredient of stillness is the key. So the ability to stay really still inside. Because without stillness, I cannot feel. I can think, I can analyze, and we're good at doing that, aren't we? We can even analyze people's faces or their behavior, and you know, work out their personality. And these days you have so many personality charts, right? Or do you do this, or do you behave like that, and what would you do in this situation, etc., etc. It's all quite analytical, and I'm sure it's good in its own way. But the ability to actually just feel and to respond to that feeling in a very appropriate way. This morning, a couple of words came up in my own thoughts. One was about spiritual tolerance, and the second was the ability to blend, to accommodate. And I was thinking to myself, when I understand and I love the heart of another, I never have to tolerate them. Can anyone remember being in love? No? It was too long ago. Yeah, you can. Good. Yeah? Anyone else remember that feeling of, or maybe even now, just that incredible love for someone? It could be anyone, really. And then they do something wrong, or they behave in a wrong way, and you actually defend them. And you'll say, no, that's why they did it. No, don't look at the, And if anyone tries to criticize them, what do? You won't accept it. That's, no, one way. They're my friend, They're in my heart. And so the power to be able to hold everybody in my heart to that extent that I will not accept criticism or putting down of anyone on this earth. That is real understanding of the soul, spiritual understanding. Of saying, stop looking at that, look deeper. Dig deeper within yourself for the eyes to be able to look at them with a different vision. So this spiritual tolerance, which is, often we use the metaphor of a tree, especially a mango or an apple tree. People throw sticks at mango trees. I've seen this in India. Trying to get down the mangoes that are freshly ripened. And what does the mango tree do? It just gives. All I've got is mangoes to give, so you might as well take them. Because if you don't take them, they're going to fall on the floor and someone's going to eat them anyway. That's all I've got. Just got to give. The mango tree doesn't say, well, I'll give to people on the left side and not to the right side. Or I'll give to people who dress well. Or I'll give to people who I like. Or I'll give to the people who even watered me and helped me in my life. The mango tree just gives. And, spiritual tolerance is a little bit like that. Spiritual clairvoyancy and being able to see things in such a clear way brings out these virtues in me. Because the minute I start to bring out love, bring out goodness, I've started to bring up a whole pot of resources I have inside me. And so this ability to be very spiritually tolerant is something very unique. Not even to feel that I've extended myself. When I was younger, and I liked the people I only liked. My mum sometimes, she started this path of meditation, and she used to say to me, Sona, you only put nice people that you can connect to in your heart. Why don't you try and expand your heart a bit? And I said to her, no, I don't want to have a big heart. My little heart's okay, 10 people is enough, And then as I grew and I started my own spiritual journey, it was quite painful to expand my heart because I didn't want some people to fit in, It was okay for them to be out. But I guess today one of the biggest challenges for me, or I could say it's an opportunity for me to be able to live with people who are so different and yet embrace them. Not just understand, not just analyze, not just say, well, you're like this and I'm like this, and we can agree to disagree, those statements. But it's to just say, well, whatever is still in my heart. I mean, who really cares about what you believe and I believe, and what you do and what I do? We're still on the same planet. We all still belong to one human family. So spiritual clairvoyancy is actually seeing that aspect and looking past what perhaps these physical eyes can see. And then the second quality that came up, which was really nice, is about the ability to accommodate the ability to, after tolerating, to work around people. A bit like a river, the river can see the rock. And it knows it has to flow around the rock. But it's the most natural thing for the river to do. Does it look like it's in pain, flowing around the rock, or over the rock, or under the rock? No, water just finds a way. It finds a way to move on. And it finds it very naturally. And so this spiritual ability to blend, to merge, to accommodate, to be able to bring everyone into my own heart. These are all the results of spiritual clairvoyancy. And I think in today's world, a world that is so fragmented, a world where people don't have time for themselves or others, maybe one of the key messages that I might be able to leave with you today is to be able to look deep into your own heart. The greatest clairvoyant spiritually is one who can look into their own heart. And to be able to actually acknowledge and deal with the stuff in there. Because as my own heart gets healed, my own heart naturally will expand. My own heart will naturally reach out. My own heart will naturally do the work of just giving love. It's not other people that have blocked us. It's not other people that hurt us, When I am spiritually awakened, then I understand that it's just my own unprocessed stuff. It's not my fault either, Because life goes by very quickly. I couldn't believe it sitting in the center here yesterday and reflecting that I couldn't believe I've been in Abu Dhabi for 8.5 years, Time has just flown, as we say, And I sometimes, one of the things I have to do in Abu Dhabi, especially these days, is no matter what I do before I go to bed, I have to take the bin out of the kitchen and chuck it in the garbage, bin outside. You have to do that, otherwise your kitchen will stink in the morning. It's so hot and humid, and there, a lot of smell. And so that's a part of my routine, winding down in the evening. Now I've got to check the kitchen bin. And I have to walk out in like 35 degrees at about 8 p.m. or 9 p.m. and throw that outside. And I run back inside because even in that 2 minutes I'm just drenched with sweat. So yeah, it always reminds me of my own heart. When was the last time I cleaned it up? When was the last time I even looked at my heart? And you might be aware that the word meditation actually comes from the root to heal, medari, which is actually the same root for the word medication. Did you know that? So medication for the body and meditation for the soul. It's healing of the body and healing of the soul. And even though meditation has so many different versions, so many ways to meditate now, and I think the ultimate aim of meditation is the cleaning of my own heart, isn't it? I mean, I don't meditate for others. I meditate because I need to do it for myself primarily. And whenever anyone comes for meditation, I ask them, well, what is it that you're looking for? And invariably, people are looking for love, for peace, for happiness, something that they've lost. But we haven't lost anything. It's all there. Right? So when you're diseased, we say, oh, you've lost your health. But the undercurrent of health is there. It's just that you've got infected. Is that right? I mean, you still got blood there. It's just that the blood's infected. You just have to get out the germs. You've just got to clean it all out. And I guess spiritually, meditation does exactly that. It cleans out that which is unwanted. It's a process of actually emptying out the garbage bin, and making sure that if my own heart stays extremely pure, and unaffected, and goes back to its original state of joy, of peace, of love, then that allows me the clear-heartedness to be able to respond appropriately in life. Is that okay? Yeah? Shall I take a little break here and ask you if you have any questions? Because I can talk till the cows come home, really. Yeah. Did anyone have any questions or any real-life situations that you might be facing? Because that's what it's all about, isn't it? It's not all theory. It's very much about making it practical. Yes?
You say about your ability to give all the time and giving the moral justice and the good. But I sometimes find that it's hard that you feel like, I know that you shouldn't have that expectation of giving back, but sometimes you're giving, but you also feel that people are taking.
Yeah.
And after a while it feels like keep giving, but you keep wanting more from them constantly, then it's hard to give more than you.
Yeah, that's such an amazing question, isn't it? Till when do I give? I mean, surely someone's going to give to me. One of the steps of meditation that's helped me immensely is realizing that as the soul is a battery, I can only function to the extent that the battery is full. You know, it's a bit like when you've got lots of stuff in your kitchen and you're just on your shopping and someone says, oh, could I borrow something? You go, oh, yeah, it's fine, take it. You know, I've got a bag full of tomatoes and a bag full of zucchinis, and a couple of tomatoes less is not going to do. And you don't even expect it back from them. Yeah. But then the day before you go shopping and there's almost nothing left at home, and you've only got one tomato, and someone says, oh, can I have your tomato? And you go, well, actually, you can have half. But I'm not going to give you the other half because then I haven't got any. Right? And spiritually, life works in the same way. The more I remain full, the more I can give. Now, how to fill myself up? Because every battery out there, I mean, with no, I don't mean any offense, but most of us are pretty low on energy, aren't we? And to expect a low battery to charge me, well, doesn't really make sense, does it? You know how people get married? You know, and they see so much wonderful stuff in the other person, and then 6 months later there's no wonder left. What happened? You know, we can kickstart each other as human beings, but we can't recharge each other's batteries. It's just not a spiritual law. And that's when I think, when I, started to meditate, and someone suggested contemplating my relationship with the divine, with the supreme, with a source that is so unending in how much it can give. Whether that for you might mean, what people call the universal energy, God, or whatever it is. Part of my meditation is actually reconnecting to that source. A bit like plugging in, knowing that there is an unending amount of electricity coming from a powerhouse. Because the more I can take, the more I can give. And when I've got, I never think about taking from others. So that's the theory. Practically, we're living in a world where people are extremely empty, and everyone needs and everyone wants. And everyone is sucking energy out of you. So I think there also comes a point where I need to learn to protect myself, in that I need to know when my battery is draining. And I need to manage myself and say, well, now is the time for me to pull back and to refill. Because they're not going to give to me, but I know where to get from. I'm not used to being around children a lot. And so sometimes when we have, events and parties at the centre in Abu Dhabi, God, they're noisy. I can handle an hour or two, and then I'm going, oh, I need my little quiet space back. But it doesn't mean that I have to be rude or nasty or, throw them out of the centre. Sometimes it just means, retreating for a few moments, finding a little 5 or 10 minute quiet time, and just resetting myself. You know? So the ability to know oneself is so important. To know when I'm starting to lose energy, when I'm starting to react and get irritated and the blame game begins, you're upsetting me and you're not giving to me, and all that sort of stuff. And then knowing that it's time to reconnect. To reconnect in, reconnect up, to feel myself, and to feel good again. Does that sort of answer your question? Yeah? Yeah, it can never, you'll never get it from humanity. You'll never get what you want from anyone. Sorry, it sounds awful. People can kickstart you and give you a little bit. And sometimes they can look so wonderful that you actually think that they'll be your support for the rest of your life. And that's a really, really tricky situation to get into, because the day they can't do something for you, you feel so let down. You know? So my motto for many years was, they're not a bad person, they're just a flat battery. And that helped me to let go of the expectation and the need, the dependency I had on other human beings, and to really just focus on taking from an unending source. Yeah. Thanks for that lovely question. Yeah. Anyone else? Anything else? Yes.
When you meditate, you actually can you draw in from the universe answers, and do you receive the answers? If you ask a question,
yeah,
do you receive the answers?
Yeah. I mean, in one word, yes. The process is more than one word. I think I've really believed all my life that we do have a lot of wisdom within us. But there's a couple of things that block that wisdom. One is a very busy mind. So I don't hear the voice of my own conscience, the voice of my own wisdom. You know, we've gotten to a space where we've given so much emphasis within our study and our working life to thinking and analyzing. And many of my own answers actually come in stillness and quiet. You know, sometimes I'm on a holiday like now, and you're just staring out at nature and you go, oh, got it. You know, eureka. So my own experience tells me that most of us have the answers to all of our questions. So the busyness of our minds, and sometimes that busyness is, you know, just thinking the same thing all the time. There's, I think it's Einstein who said you can't solve a problem with the same consciousness that you created the problem. You've sort of got to rise to a different level of understanding and wisdom. But to be able to make that jump, I need quiet. You know? That's where meditation is so vital. Uncluttering. So that's the one thing. That's the over busyness of the mind. The second thing is actually that some of us have just forgotten some basic spiritual laws and truths. It's not that we didn't know them, but I think I can't even call it education system, but our human education system these days has taught us things that go against the grain of spiritual reality. You know, we're taught to be attached to each other, to be dependent on each other, perhaps. You know, we're taught that, you know, certain things within human relationships are correct, but they're not working for us. And so for me, just going through the meditation course also clarified certain things that I probably knew deep down inside, but I had not been exposed to that way of thinking from my parents and from school and the society that I lived in. So I'm not sure if you've done the meditation course that they offer here, but it's very good to just go through certain spiritual laws and truths that actually just help you to look at things and understand them in a different way. And I would say it's just a process of remembering some of the deeper hidden truths that then give you the wisdom to change your entire life. Yeah, just two things, you know. It's being quiet, and it's also digging a little deeper. But to dig deeper, we need the tools. And that knowledge and that understanding has always, for me, brought me back to the basic principles that are taught in the Brahma Kumari centers. Yeah. Is that okay? Yeah. One last question, maybe? And then it'd be nice to finish off with a few minutes of quiet, with meditation together. Anyone else? A comment or a question or a thought or a feeling? You're a very quiet lot here. Yes.
How do you know if you've got a soul? Or do I think I've got a soul?
Well, you know the car's got a driver.
I think I was 13 years ago. I think I was beamed up into a ship or something, and my mind was swept. And then I was beamed down. And the first thing I said to myself, I looked down at myself. I was sitting like this. And I said, I'm smaller. And from then on, the last 13 years, I've just been totally lost because I've had no memory of my past before then.
I'll be honest with you, we all have lost our memory, haven't we? We're all a bit in a state of amnesia. You're not the only one.
Yeah.
We've all forgotten who we are,
Yeah.
and we've forgotten what we're here for.
It's been a lot of time away. I went up north. And I've just come back about 14 months ago. And I'm still acclimatising. You know, I'm not used to...
Look, I acclimatised in 24 hours. I'm so happy to be here. So how do I know that I have a soul, you know?
Yeah.
When you see a dead body, has anyone seen a dead body on TV?
I've seen a dead body in real life.
Real life, good. So what's missing? So what's the soul? Life. And what does life do? Energy. Do you know my definition of a soul? It's the thinking, feeling, being. If I'm thinking and I'm feeling, then there is life in this body. There is spiritual energy. Even when someone's in a coma, they say, and I'm not a medical doctor and I'm not a researcher, but I've heard that even in a coma, sometimes people can feel your energy when you walk into a room. They know that you're there. And one real life situation that I've been through is when my grandfather passed away. And my dad was his favorite son. And he'd been sick for a long time. I mean, at a point where doctors kept saying, he's going, he's going. But he waited for my dad to walk into the room. And he couldn't move, he couldn't turn his face to look at my father. But as my father came close to his bed, he knew that his last wish had been fulfilled. And he could feel my dad's energy. I have no proof for this, but I just know it. You know how you know things? And then he left. That soul had the peace that he had finally reconnected with his favorite son. And that's all he wanted, and then he left.
I have trouble with clones and replicas and replacements of people, and they go missing and the replacement is totally different. It's not the same person, and I study people a lot.
Maybe, just bringing it back to myself and just checking, how are my thoughts and how are my feelings and what's going on inside.
Calm.
Yeah, good.
I was listening to one of the lectures by two blokes, David and somebody else. Yeah, 3 weeks ago. And one of them said, before you can go on any further, you've got to have an understanding and come to terms with God. And I hadn't prayed for a long time. And I prayed, not very nicely the first time, but I got what I asked for. And then I prayed again and I felt better, and now I feel like I'm getting stronger and stronger. And
Next time I want something, I'll come to you.
Me too.
Yeah, thank you for that. Really appreciate your comments and thoughts. And so as long as I'm in here, in this body, as long as the driver is in the car, as long as the soul is sitting, breathing, thinking and feeling, just to remember that my mission on earth is actually to hold the purity of my heart, My mission on earth is actually just to respond from the purity of my heart, to see with the purity of my heart, to connect with that space of goodness and love. And if all of us could do that, even just all of us in this room, imagine what a pretty place, this surrounding area might be. We don't need to wait for anyone else to do it. Just trust that just you alone can have such a ripple effect. When you change your sight and you change your feelings, then one law of spirituality is, as I give out, I get back. So thank you all for listening, and it's been lovely to be here and to get this opportunity to meet you, see your lovely smiling faces. And maybe we could finish with just a few minutes of meditation. Is that okay, Tim? Yeah, if I just speak a few words? Yeah, that's wonderful, thank you. So just sit back and relax, and let's just remember that I'm this thinking, feeling being on a journey. And whether you prefer to keep your eyes open, resting on that little point, the focal point of light, or whether you choose to close them, just feel the weight of your body on the chair and relax. To the focal point. And allow yourself to just feel the weight of your body on the chair. Let go of any tension inside. Your feet, your legs, your stomach. Check your breathing. Your shoulders, your back, your arms, your hands. Even relaxing the muscles of your face. And gently turning within, knowing that there is a being, there is a source of life. And within I, that being, there is a heart made of gold, that I was born so pure and so clean, with a heart full of love. Just allow yourself to hear the beat of your heart, the heart of the soul, to feel that love within. It's an unpolluted love, a love for the sake of love. And in this space of stillness, of inner quiet, to that feeling of love within, I can look out and feel humanity. In a different way. I see with understanding, and I feel with love. And I know that we all belong. To to one divine source of love. And in this moment, I allow my spiritual heart to expand. I let my love grow so much that every human being can sit in my heart and belong to me. No matter what they are, no matter what they've done in the past, or how different they might be to me. But in this moment, just now, I put the whole world into my heart with deep acceptance, with love, and with very pure understanding. That everyone is just doing their best. So I love them. And just as the divine has patience in me, hope in me, so may I always maintain that patience and hope towards others. Om Shanti. Thank you.